Worlds in collision. Hi, do you know you can live a better life than what you? Did you know that human destiny is connected to the stars in the universe? You can watch the videos through this channel. On the crest of success, with my horse trotting in the breeze, you are enjoy all the flowers in Chang'an in just one day. Guiding conduct through a value system, interpersonal interactions, observing the latest global political and economic developments on a weekly basis, combining celestial observations with Eastern metaphysical ideas to assess the current situation and trends, to seize opportunities in changing circumstances. Provide a reference for your decision, because you have the right to know this eye-catching commentary. Discover your unique potential life value. The fusion of Tao and technology. Life opens up the two veins of Ren and Du, allowing you to pursue a life of living and working in peace and contentment in transit. Maintain a balanced and healthy rhythm of life to have a richer and happier life, and then achieve financial freedom. This video begins. International political and economic events are intertwined. The situation is really treacherous and changeable. It can be said that there is a wave of unrest and another wave, while the eyes of the whole world are watching. When did the Ukrainian-Russian war end? A few days ago. There was another turmoil in the Middle East. Israel chooses the wee hours when people are sleeping and letting their guard down. Attacks on a target in Damascus for several days in a row. Bombing the same target obviously means that the intelligence investigation work has been done long ago. As soon as the missile hits up, it runs towards the target where the troops are stationed. It was clearly a very successful beheading operation. Powerful countries in the Middle East launched a new armed confrontation. The global geopolitical situation is currently highly tense. Coincidentally, recently U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen is preparing to submit a new proposal to Congress, raise the U.S. national debt ceiling from raised to $51 trillion. Even if the practice is abundant, J. Yellen, when she was approaching retirement, the way she thought of was still to print money. Issue 100-year U.S. bonds, rising interest rates with U.S. violence. Real politicians are completely insane, but other countries have not followed suit. Instead, they jump ship, challenging the U.S. dollar's trade settlement status. Contains Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, Iran. Countries such as Mexico, Algeria, Egypt, Argentina, and Nigeria have expressed their willingness to join the BRICS. The BRICS countries are expanding and are working to establish a new digital currency blockchain technology. Gold and rare earths will be used as the counter for issuing currency. Although digital payment is no longer a brand new concept, but it should be the most promising and feasible in the foreseeable future. And some countries are moving away from the dollar. This will make the dollar no longer able to act as a middleman, further empowering international trade away from the world's reserve currency. Of course, whether the game between countries is to cooperate or to turn against each other, it's all just for profit, benefit. What's more, this year, over the world has been ravaged by the epidemic for 3 years. All countries are actively trying to find ways to revive the economy. In the thought of the Eastern Book of Changes, one side rises, there will be a decline of one side. It's like how a computer calculates. It is the logic calculus of the alternation of 1 and 0. As long as you have a sky above your head, you will naturally have a foothold in nature. In order to survive, there are men and women, that is to say, relying on this principle, looking at the essence of astrology, same as Book of Changes and other academic. It's all from prehistoric times. People's observations on the laws of celestial bodies. Its original purpose is to deduce the solar terms and seasonal changes on the Earth, to better understand the laws of nature, such as the opposition and conjunction of planets, the appearance and disappearance of comets. In addition, people can also observe astronomical phenomena to infer future climate change. From here, take the necessary measures for the situation at that time, especially in ancient times as small as the common people, marriage, funeral, festive, roughly war and diplomacy. This kind of astronomical observation is very necessary. Once any mistakes occur, it is likely to affect the final result. And in the history of ancient warfare, there are also many examples of winning battles with the advantage of weather. This is what the ancients said. the right time, the right place, the right people, and the right time. It refers to whether the weather or the season at that time is good for you, such as Saturn-Jupiter rendezvous. This album hopes to combine astronomical phenomena and Oriental metaphysics, keep abreast of market trends and changes, remind you to make a reference to assess the situation. Following Venus and Saturn's double stars with the Moon on January, Venus conjunct Jupiter on March, and the Moon occultation of Venus that appeared in the evening of March. This is a very rare phenomenon, the phenomenon in which the Moon passes in front of or covers Venus. While lunar occultations of Venus are relatively rare, they still happen from time to time. Both the Moon and Venus are important symbols in Chinese traditional culture. The Moon represents the meanings of softness, clarity, perfection, and beauty. Venus represents gods such as Kaiming, Chang'an, Wenk, etc. The astronomical phenomenon that the Moon obscures Venus. There are different meanings and legends in the East and West. The Moon covering Venus is the moment when Venus, the god of love, meets the Moon in Greek mythology. Because it symbolizes romance and sweetness, Venus is called the morning star or evening star, represents Venus appearing in the sky at dawn and dusk respectively. And Venus is the god of love in Greek mythology, has a close relationship with the Moon. Therefore, when the Moon covers Venus, it's like two gods meeting in private. In the East, it is said that the Moon covers Venus, which is called lunar eclipse Taibai in ancient times. The bad omen of lunar eclipse Taibai in ancient China, scholars, they think that the transgression between Sui Xing and Taibai Venus is a large-scale war, a sign of war. We can rely on it. For example, the Chinese prophecy Di Langxi said, the Moon offends the Venus, the strong prince makes trouble, the country is invincible, the king dies, and the country perishes. In China at the time of Emperor Ming of the Wei dynasty, that is, about 2,000 years ago, Moon overshadows Venus. Divination says, the emperor dies and becomes a soldier. After the event, 3 years later, Gongsun Yuan rebelled and raised his army. Emperor Wei Mingdi of China died. There are several similar records in ancient Chinese books. If you are interested in this topic, please leave a message below or send an email. Another theory comes from Taoism and folk beliefs. Venus is considered to be the body of Wen Kaxing. Wen Kaxing is the god in charge of studies and talents. When the Moon covers Venus, it is the moment when Wen Kaxing is hidden. It's like when Kaxing has entered the state of cultivation. This special astronomical phenomenon will bring wisdom and inspiration to people. It showed up in 2022, 2020, 2010, and 2001. Because in addition to the Ukrainian-Russian war in 2022, as a result, raw materials in the supply chain of related semiconductor industries are affected. In turn, oil prices, food, and international trade are all implicated, impacting the balance of supply and demand in the global market. World experiences worst East-West tensions. Russian troops haven't achieved much further in Ukraine. Even many of the originally occupied areas were retaken by Ukraine. But Ukraine did not completely expel the Russian army. The Ukrainian and Russian armies are caught in a meat grinder. Except for Russia and Ukraine, global financial markets experienced turmoil. Energy and food prices soared, have a serious impact on the livelihood of the people of all countries. If the leaders of the world have a little understanding of Eastern metaphysics, maybe there will be no war. Let's just look back and talk about 2020, 2010, and 2001. World events that happened at that time. Major events and developments that have had a profound impact on world order. From political turmoil to economic crisis, these years were a turning point for many countries and regions. In 2001, the world's only a moon occultation of Venus can be seen in the Americas. The 9/11 attacks and the Enron scandal also took place in the Americas. The 11th of September, 2001, a group of terrorists affiliated with the Islamic extremist Al-Qaeda, 4 commercial planes hijacked and crashed into U.S. terrorist attack. New York World Trade Center and Washington Pentagon. It caused the deaths of nearly 3,000 people, had a profound impact on global politics and security. The Enron scandal also happened financially. Texas-based energy company Enron Corporation in widespread financial fraud and declared bankruptcy after business corruption incidents were exposed. The scandal had far-reaching implications for corporate governance and regulation. Arab Spring happened in 2010. A series of pro-democracy protests and uprisings sweeps the Middle East and North Africa. Arab Spring will eventually lead to major political change and social unrest across the region. In January of 2010, a devastating earthquake hit Haiti, resulting in over 230,000 deaths, and caused widespread destruction and social unrest. The earthquake had a significant impact on the disaster management and relief efforts in the area in 2010. Social media platforms such as Facebook and Twitter are popular in 2010, changing the way people communicate and interact online. The rise of social media. It will have a profound impact on political marketing and social interaction in the coming years. In 2010, the WikiLeaks controversy erupted, an international non-profit organization that released news leaks and confidential information. The release of confidential documents related to the Iraq and Afghanistan wars sparked a debate about the role of whistleblowers. The controversy and debate around government transparency and national security. On 2020, the transit of Venus across the Sun was visible from parts of the Americas, Africa, and Asia. The pandemic rapidly spread worldwide, causing 6 billion people to be infected, with 6,840,000 deaths and social unrest in the year 2020. It had a significant impact on public health, the global economy, and international trade and political relationships. On March of this year, there was another occurrence of Venus disappearing as it passed behind the dark edge of the moon. In addition to the arrest and subpoena of former U.S. President Donald Trump in a Manhattan court, becoming the first former U.S. president to face criminal charges in history. And there's the fresh-faced, beloved by young voters 37-year-old Prime Minister of Finland. Sanna Marin announced her defeat and is expected to step down from her position. The center-right opposition party in Finland has won the election, leading to a change of leadership. Sanna Marin is expected to step down. In more important news, Finland has completed the process of joining the NATO organization. This is a huge shift for a country that has long maintained wartime neutrality and has not joined any military alliances. The inclusion of Finland in NATO and the expansion of right-wing groups in Finland have both had an impact on global politics and economics. Despite the limitations posed by Finland's land area, these developments will have an impact on global politics and the economy. Although limited by its territorial size, these developments still contribute to the broader trends and dynamics of the international community. The rise of right-wing groups in these countries can be attributed to various factors in Europe. In addition to economic and immigration issues, the rise of these right-wing groups in these countries can also be attributed to a desire for stronger national identity. But broader impacts still need to be considered. First, Finland's accession to NATO would shift the power balance in the Baltic and Nordic regions. This would lead to an intensification of the tense relations with Russia in the Baltic Sea region and Northern Europe, increased regional tensions and insecurity, as well as economic downturn, such as increased military spending, disrupted trade relations, and declining investor confidence, affects alliance cohesion and strategic focus. Second, the election of the leader of the Finnish right-wing group and their expanding influence, especially if they gain political power, could lead to differing views on NATO priorities and missions, leading to internal disagreements and affecting the effectiveness of EU policies. Third, Moscow sees these developments as a threat to its interests and takes steps to address them. Examples include increasing military threats in the region, imposing economic sanctions, or engaging in information warfare. These actions have broader implications for global security and economic stability. Fourth, as a member of the European Union, Finland's accession to NATO will affect the internal politics of the EU. Finland would argue for greater emphasis on security and defense within the EU. This leads to changes in EU budget allocations, priorities, and foreign policy. Fifth, Finland's accession to NATO, combined with the expansion of right-wing groups, will have spillover effects on neighboring countries, especially in the Nordic and Baltic regions. These developments could lead to regional shifts in political alignment. Other countries will reassess their security arrangements and political affiliations. Sixth, after Finland joins NATO, it will promote the increase of global military expenditure, because this will prompt Russia to strengthen its own defenses, which will have an impact on the global arms race. Countries increase military budgets and invest in new technologies, thereby diverting resources away from social planning and economic development. Seventh, the growth of right-wing groups in Finland contributes to changing international values and norms. This leads to a more fragmented global landscape. Countries are increasingly putting national interests above multilateral cooperation. This issue can hinder progress on key global issues. Eighth, the EU relies heavily on Russian gas. Any heightened tensions resulting from NATO membership would lead to a reassessment of energy dependence. This has led to efforts to diversify energy sources and strengthen regional energy cooperation. This will affect global energy markets and geopolitics. Ninth, Finland's accession to NATO and the growth of right-wing groups will affect global trade relations. This will change the pattern of international trade and affect world politics and economics. Tenth, as a technologically advanced country, after Finland joined NATO, and the rise of right-wing groups, impact on global cybersecurity and the digital economy, the EU will prioritize investing in cybersecurity measures to protect the integrity of its critical infrastructure, digital assets, and democratic institutions. This contributes to a broader focus on cybersecurity and digital resilience within NATO and globally, with potential implications for international cooperation and the growth of the digital economy. 11th, Finland has always pursued a neutral policy and maintained balanced diplomatic relations with both Eastern and Western countries. Joining NATO and the rise of right-wing groups would change the country's diplomatic stance and affect its role in international diplomacy and conflict resolution efforts. 12th, after Finland joins NATO, the expansion of right-wing groups will affect the country's attitude towards global governance and participation in international institutions, take a more active role in shaping global policy according to their political goals. This affects the priorities and operations of institutions such as the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. History always repeats itself. Following the WikiLeaks incident, the leak of Ukrainian military confidential documents continued to ferment. It also accidentally revealed that the United States is spying on many allies including China, Germany, and South Korea. Just 3 months later, the world political and economic situation, the plot is already so tense and exciting. The rise of national sentiment and populism in various countries affect the stability and cooperation of the international community, leading to broader trends and challenges in politics, economics, and finance. Therefore, monitor these developments comprehensively and understand their potential impact, essential for navigating the complex and ever-changing global political and economic landscape. This video deals with the impact of astronomical phenomena on human activities. Let us start with a brief preliminary explanation here. If you are interested in this topic, next time we have a chance to talk about. After the Qingming festival, Mercury has entered a shock trajectory, gradually approaching the conjunction with Uranus. These astronomical phenomena emphasize everything is born from nothing to our life and Eastern thought. We should be able to see opportunities in changes in the global situation and international trade. This video uses the concept of harmony between man and nature and the harmony of yin and yang. Turn the global crisis into a miracle. Turn crisis into opportunity and discover the potential value of life. At the end of this video, I would like to thank all viewers for their support. Making a movie is no easy task. It is relying on everyone's interaction and encouragement in order to continue continuously. If you feel that today's video is a little rewarding, please remember to press like. It's easy to search for when you want to watch it in the future. I also hope to continue to be motivated in the future. Provide quality content here to bring you more inspiration. Thank you for watching. I wish you peace and health.